on the roof of a windy skyscraper. Park regrets taking a year off for a difficult college entrance exam. However, a notification on her phone soon turns her world right side up. She passed. But this happy girl is unable to celebrate this life-changing moment. Right as she is shedding tears of joy and relief, someone pushes her off the roof of this skyscraper. While falling to her death, Park remembers a fortune teller revealing her life would be very short. With her loved ones in mind and no time left, the hard-working yet unlucky Park accepts her fate. However, God sheds some kindness to our heroine, who opens her eyes in a new world. Park, now Raeliana McMillian, the daughter of a young noble, stares out the windows of her house with her mind filled with nothing but confusion. Raeliana gets dressed by maids while admiring her own beautiful reflection in the mirror. Then, she heads downstairs to have breakfast. Before she can greet her parents, Raeliana's cute younger sister, Rosemary, rushes to hug her. After doting on her sister, Raeliana sits to eat with her parents. Her father, John McMillan, is a newly rich noble. Both of Raeliana's parents are loving, and her life would be perfect, but sitting at the table, Raeliana remembers that she is a side character. In the novel, Raeliana is murdered by her fiancé, Francis Brooks, which causes her best friend, Beatrice, to investigate her death and progress the story. At present, Raeliana heads out for a brief meeting with Francis. She wonders how to break her engagement with this greedy man who is trying to gain her parents' sympathy after her death to take over the McMillan family business. Thus, she tries the most straightforward method, asking her fiancé to break up. Of course, Francis pretends not to hear it, as if the words marriage annulment coming from Raeliana just didn't register. All while he keeps talking about how marvelous the crows look, Raeliana thinks of how to get rid of him. After buying the 50 Ways to Dump Your Boyfriend book, she tries pouring wine all over his expensive outfit and leaves him humiliated in a restaurant. But he still shows no signs of giving up. The next day, Francis once again meets up with Raeliana. Trying to show off his hunting skills, he hands over his rifle to her. Francis would soon find out, however, that Raeliana is very good with guns when she shoots a bullet just a bit below his crotch. Internally, Park smirks, remembering that the character Raeliana had always practiced hunting with her father. On another day, Francis finally gets tired of Raeliana ignoring him. At first, he tries emotionally blackmailing her, but when that fails, he leaves after threatening that her small family cannot afford to offend his own. Later that night, Raeliana is at a ball, desperately wondering how to get Francis off her tail, when she sees her escape route. Noah Winknight, a Duke of the Kingdom, descends down the stairs in front of her. Park remembers that in this world, the older generations of nobles wish to pass down a law to restrict the younger generation from becoming nobles. However, to make this law official, they needed the sovereign's seal, which had gone missing. Noah, the second son of the previous queen, knew the location of this seal, but because of a scandal, he could not become the new king. Now, he walked with the burden of the older generation's hopes. At present, Raeliana wonders if the powerful Duke Noah can somehow deal with her fiancé. She follows him outside. While at the same ball, Francis is dragged into a corner by a man named Jake Langston. Jake seems to be involved with Francis's conspiracy and warns him to never let his fiancé go. While Francis searches for Raeliana, she wanders outside the mansion on how to approach Noah. Thankfully for the awkward girl, Noah realizes she's following him and he turns around to talk to her. She is momentarily stunned by his sweet voice and charming looks, but immediately snaps out of it. She remembers that Noah is a dangerous, two-faced man who always keeps a sweet smile. Hesitant, she proposes a deal to Noah about the sovereign seal. His eyes narrow with interest because no one else should know that he actually knows where it is. A secret that if it were to get out, the older nobles would turn on the Winknight family and possibly create insurrection. But her fiancé, Francis, interrupts their conversation. Taking this opportunity, Raeliana takes Noah's hands and declares that she has fallen for him and will be breaking up with Francis. Francis is shocked and outraged as Raeliana hints at Noah about their deal. He takes the hint and guards her from Francis as a servant rushes Raeliana over to a family carriage. Safe for the time being, Raeliana sits in the carriage with her father. As she thinks about the fortune teller's curse, she's determined to change her life this time. The next day, Raeliana wakes up with a terrible hangover. To worsen things, she receives news that the cunning Noah has come to visit her. Gritting her teeth, she gets out of bed to face the difficult day ahead of her. After greeting Noah, Raeliana heads to the library to find a book. Made from the family notice how Noah, who refused the beautiful villainess, Vivian Shamal, is now paying attention to their plain young lady. Meanwhile, Raeliana gets a book on contracts to prepare for her meeting with Noah before talking to her parents. Nervous, she reveals that she wants to break her engagement with Francis to them. Raeliana is worried that her parents will find the decision difficult as it would harm the family's reputation and business. But to her surprise, they calmly accept her decision. Her father, John, tells Raeliana that she's always been a good girl, which was nice, but it also worried her parents that she was hiding her pain. Thus, they felt happy that she opened up about a personal matter to them. Now relieved, Raeliana finally heads out to Duke Noah's mansion. There, Noah asks Raeliana about the deal. She reveals that Noah is actually the one possessing the sovereign seal, fooling the old nobility while acting as a pawn for the current king. Noah reacts to this information, but seems uninterested in making a deal based off of it. This worries Raeliana, who reveals the location of the current seal being the grave of Noah's dead cousin Robert. Noah feigns ignorance to this fact. After all, who would believe her? So she gets up to leave. As she gets to the door, she hopes Noah would change his mind, but no such thing happens. Thinking about what to do, Raeliana suddenly remembers a crucial bit of information. She tells Noah that the second son of a certain powerful noble family would become the leader, and not the eldest one, which could be useful information if Noah wants to win that family over. Noah, intrigued by her words, stops Raeliana from leaving, and agrees to make the deal. Noah then learns that Raeliana wants him to act as her fiancé. She explains that she needs this to avoid her death at Francis's hand. However, Noah questions her source, learning that she can't reveal it. Obviously, I read that in a romance novel about this world isn't a really convincing idea. Raeliana bravely threatens to leak his info, but Noah mocks her cute attempts at blackmailing him without any leverage. He decides to sign her contract, though, with the condition that she would also appear as his fiancée wherever needed. Raeliana is a bit surprised by how easy it was, but would find out soon what kind of man she has gotten involved with. Later, she reads a paper, learning that the Brooks family is demanding compensation from her family for breaking the engagement. She realizes her deal with Noah might have been pointless before getting freaked out by the silent man named Adam assigned by Noah to watch her. Raeliana gets freaked out by the silent assassin, remembering that he is an exceptionally talented and loyal young warrior. One of the maids in her house also gets shocked by the silent knight, but Raeliana chides her for being rude. To apologize, the maid gives Raeliana some sweets she made. Outside, Raeliana greeted by her sister Rose, who rushes to hug her. Rose tells Raeliana that she has been praying for her happy marriage with the Duke and is sending her wish in a balloon. Overwhelmed by her cuteness, Raeliana hugs her sweet sister. Unfortunately, when Rosemary lets go of her balloon, it gets stuck in a tree. The girl gets worried that by the time the balloon is set free, it will have forgotten her wish. Then, unexpectedly, the quiet Adam displays a soft side and cuts the balloon free with his sword. Rosemary thanks him with a treat, which Adam accepts with slight excitement. Seeing this, Raeliana asks if he likes sweets, which he admits. From this, she realizes that being a child soldier, Adam has never had simple joys and hands the knight the whole bag of sweets she received. Later, after playing with her sister and saying goodbye to her parents, Raeliana gets into the Duke's carriage to be escorted to her new home. Once Raeliana reaches the mansion, she is greeted by the friendly old head butler, Gideon. This butler initially appears to be welcoming, but immediately reminds Raeliana of her place as a low-level noble by revealing the grand mansion's ancient history. Raeliana later collapses in bed, terrified that she might accidentally break a national treasure in this huge home. But Noah's cool voice comforts her. She immediately jolts, shocked at his presence, and demands some privacy. When Noah refuses, Raeliana reassures him that she will never plot against him, so he should at least respect her wish for privacy. In the mood for some teasing, Noah leans in, holds Raeliana's chin, and commands her to say his name. With a blush, Raeliana quietly says his name, before he leaves her room. Outside, Noah hears the noises of Raeliana hitting her pillow in frustration. He chuckles, clearly pleased with her cute reaction, and asks a nearby Adam for his opinion on her. Adam recalls Raeliana's chocolate gift and replies that he finds her strange. Noah is visibly shocked that the quiet, cold Adam actually seems to somewhat like another person. This intrigues him more about his new fiancée. Later, Raeliana begins her training as a nobleman's wife, learning all sorts of new arts and subjects. Thankfully, the entrance exam preparation from her previous life allows her to easily master new subjects in this one. After 2 weeks of this boring routine, Raeliana finds herself sitting in her room, bored, when Noah unexpectedly appears, seeing a leaf landed on her head. He asks if she'd like some jewels instead. Raeliana blushes, annoyed by his teasing, when Noah reveals some flowers for her. Of course, he doesn't give them to her without some teasing. He then tells Raeliana that they'll soon attend a ball where he plans on announcing their engagement. Raeliana is shocked by the sudden news, but has no time to react as an eccentric makeup artist, Nick, comes into her room. Raeliana is startled at first, but immediately warms up to the friendly man. Nick is great at hiding all the dark circles under her eyes and transforms Raeliana's face. She is truly impressed by his skills, and Nick then tells her about 2 very popular smiles in the country: Noah's cool poker face smile and Vivian Shamal's seductive one. He then gets Raeliana to smile for him, teaching her to smile as if she's shooting the person she hates most. Sheesh, that's a rough but very effective way of getting a bright smile. Raeliana pictures shooting her damned ex Francis and immediately starts grinning like a proper maniac. Afterward, she gets her hair done and dresses up, truly looking like a gorgeous princess. As Raeliana then heads downstairs to meet Noah, she meets Adam. She asks him if she looks good, but Adam remains silent. Disappointed, Raeliana leaves, while Adam stares at her beauty in shock. Inside Noah's study, Raeliana greets him. Noah coolly tells Raeliana about their carriage while handling their papers. But when he looks up at her, he immediately freezes. Raeliana stays silent, expecting a compliment or some teasing, but to her disappointment, Noah quietly leaves. The butler, Gideon, whispers into the displeased Raeliana's ears that Noah is just being shy because of her beauty. Raeliana blushes, unable to believe that the devilish Noah would be affected by her charm. As Raeliana gets into the carriage with him in another noble mansion, we get to see the beautiful Vivian Shamal leaving for the ball as well. Back to Raeliana, she gets to see the trademark Noah Winknight smile once more in her carriage. After arriving at the Grand Mansion, Raeliana follows Noah, who instructs her to stay within his sight. Surprised at this order, Raeliana turns around to see even more guards, shocked at Noah's apparent mistrust of her. At the ball, everyone is amazed by Raeliana's looks. As other nobles whisper in envy, Raeliana is greeted by an old noble, who congratulates the couple. Noah pretends to be incredibly grateful for his fiancée, as Raeliana laughs at his two-faced behavior inside. From a nearby whisper, she learns that Vivian Shamal will also attend the ball. Leaving her no time to think, some charmed nobles invite Raeliana for a dance. However, they're all turned away by her fiancé, Noah. As Raeliana laughs inside at his acting, Noah takes her hand, and the pretend couple begins dancing closely while the impressed audience watches them. Both Noah and Raeliana bicker back and forth as Raeliana tries to tease Noah by stepping on his foot. However, he just trips her and holds her in his arms as revenge. However, Raeliana is freaked out as she feels a pair of eyes on her. She finally sees Vivian glaring at her and remembers that she was a major character who fell in love with Noah. However, after Noah's rejection, she became the king's wife despite him. Vivian would later get in Noah and Beatrice's way after they started dating. Thinking about this, Raeliana realizes Vivian would try to get in her way this time. At this moment, Noah also asks Raeliana to keep acting as her fiancée, saying he needs her to get close to the old Marquis's wife Eretile. Apparently, the young lady is part of a women's group where many important facts about the nobility are discussed. Noah tells Raeliana to join that group before leaving the crowd behind. Raeliana leaves to follow the noble's wife, Marquise Eretile. Pretending to slip and spill a drink on her hand, she starts a conversation with her. However, when things are looking smooth, Raeliana is greeted by the dreaded Vivian. The cold beauty starts elegantly mocking Raeliana for being a poor savage. But Raeliana retorts with her impressive accomplishments and Vivian's older age. This ticks off the villainess, and Raeliana seems to be stuck while Eretile helplessly watches them. Thankfully, in the nick of time, Vivian gets distracted by a certain makeup artist, whom Raeliana gratefully thanks before leaving with Eretile. Now alone with the young lady, Raeliana sends all of her guards back except a female guard, Ansley. Ansley is shocked that Adam actually took an order from a person other than Noah and left, proving their mistress's authority. Inside a room, Raeliana cleans Eretile's hand while they make conversation, Since both girls were forced into marriages against their wills, they find common ground and sympathize with her. Soon, Eretile becomes good friends with Raeliana and offers to invite her to the Royal Wives group. Raeliana is overjoyed internally, but doesn't display it on her face. As the two smoothly deepen their friendship, something unexpected happens. Smoke fills the room, shocking and blinding everyone. The guard, Ansley, urgently calls out for Raeliana, but it's too late, as a hand covers her face from the darkness and Raeliana loses consciousness. The unconscious lady is then taken into a forest on a strange carriage, the driver of whom is none other than Francis. Riding the carriage, Francis remembers how one of the women he deceived for money was Jake's own sister. However, this poor lady had fallen in love with him and took her own life after finding out she had been lied to. Jake, who had witnessed it all, blackmailed Francis into marrying Raeliana. That way he could collect on his sister's death. Francis regrets choosing Jake's sister, just because that got him in trouble, and not because he regrets being a scumbag, by the way. As his carriage heads in deeper, ominous red eyes glow in the dark. As the carriage rumbles through the forest, Raeliana slowly regains consciousness inside. She sees Jake in front of her and tries to scream for help. After learning it's no use, Raeliana calms down and threatens Jake with Noah's revenge. However, the madman does not care about the threat and holds a knife to her face. Seeing that he's truly serious about killing her, Raeliana apologizes to Jake. He finally lets her go, and she asks him why he's doing this. Jake then tells her about his little sister, which shocks Raeliana. She tries to convince him to stop, but to no avail. Suddenly, though, the carriage stops. Jake is surprised and asks Francis what happened. It turns out, they hit a landslide and one wheel collapsed. As Jake heads out to investigate, Francis comes in to watch Raeliana. Angry, she reveals that she knew about him poisoning her tea, which shocks the bitter man. Using his shock, Raeliana quickly pulls his cloak over his face and jumps out of the carriage. She runs away into the forest, scared and alone. However, Raeliana remains determined to live and heads out after cutting the longer parts of her dress. Just as she gets out of the grass, a hand suddenly covers her face. Startled, Raeliana turns around, only to feel relieved looking into the familiar eyes of Adam Taylor. Adam suddenly notices something and points his sword at a nearby Jake. Jake raises his hand in surrender, daring him to kill him. He points out that he's the only son his debt-ridden mother has. At this, Raeliana feels guilty about having him killed and asks Adam to capture him alive. Jake, however, has no intentions of coming peacefully as he runs away after tossing a liquid on Adam. This liquid attracts a huge monster, which Raeliana warns Adam about. Adam nods, and then suddenly shoves her off of the cliff behind them. Raeliana is confused as to why Adam would betray her. The falling sensation reminds her of her first life, and she closes her eyes once again. However, this time, a pair of hands catch her at the bottom. It's her darling hero Noah, who is breathing heavily from worry. When Raeliana realizes that she's in Noah's arms, she ruins the moment and starts struggling to get out of embarrassment. She then remembers that Adam is fighting a monster and asks Noah to help him. However, he seems calm, and when Raeliana turns around, she sees the monster defeated and a victorious Adam. Apparently, the people in this world are used to dealing with powerful creatures. With her life finally saved, Raeliana remembers Jake, who managed to escape in the chaos. However, at this moment, the rest of the guards return with a captured Jake. Only Francis remains to be caught, and when Raeliana finally finds him, she takes a gun from Noah and uses it to corner him. Now having the upper hand, she mocks Francis for bothering her and makes him pass out from fear by shooting a bullet near his crotch. Everyone else stares at her in surprise and learns that she's rather good with guns. Later, the group heads back on horses. Since they don't have enough horses, Raeliana reluctantly ends up on a horse with Noah. As Noah teases her for causing all this mess, Raeliana cutely puffs up with anger. However, she still feels grateful and thanks Noah for saving her life with an embarrassed blush. Tired from a sleepless night and fighting for her life, Raeliana falls asleep in Noah's arms. As he holds her closely, Noah wonders why he feels so angry at the thought of Raeliana getting attacked. Has he grown feelings for this woman who used him for her own benefit? With cold eyes, Noah tells Adam to take care of their two prisoners. The next day, Raeliana wakes up in bed with a strange pain in her lower back. A sudden fear grows within her when she sees a shirtless Noah right next to her. Raeliana grows more and more suspicious and asks if he did anything to her. Noah pretends to not know and teases her for asking for it. This makes her jump out of bed in anger and storm out to see Adam. As Noah is ordering Adam to bring Raeliana back to him, she turns to Adam and asks him to save her. Adam approaches the nervous damsel in distress and takes off with her, shocking Noah that he would disobey him. Gideon then approaches Noah to ask what the problem is, and Noah claims Raeliana has been kidnapped. The old butler is initially scared but soon realizes Adam just took her out for a bit. However, Noah is serious about calling a search for his fiancée. Meanwhile, standing near the gates of Noah's establishment, Park thinks about Noah saving her life. Feeling guilty for taking her friend Beatrice's place as Noah's lover, she wonders if she even has the right to use Raeliana's body as her own. Feeling the need to freshen up, she asks Adam if he can show her to a bath. Adam leads her to a maid's bathing area, where she takes the opportunity to clean up and change into a maid's dress. In her new disguise, Raeliana wanders around the mansion and manages to fool some chefs into giving her a dessert for the princess Raeliana. She takes out this dessert to share with Adam, after which he takes her to a safe spot to relax, Noah's study. There, Raeliana tries to grab a book, happy that when she is reborn, she can understand all the languages of this world. However, the book is too high for her to reach, but a pleasant man gets it for her instead. It's Count Keith, one of Noah's good friends. As the two of them begin a conversation, Raeliana notices Noah standing nearby. He immediately recognizes her, but she tries to get away from the supposed pervert. Noah tells her that she misunderstood, and her back pain was just from a horse ride. Frustrated, Raeliana questions why he hadn't explained earlier. Seeing how upset she is, Noah offers an apology with a hint of regret in his voice. Both Raeliana and Keith are shocked that the indifferent Noah would actually apologize. However, Raeliana doesn't accept his apology at first, which makes Noah kiss her hand and beg for forgiveness. She blushes fiercely and leaves the study, leaving behind a pleased Noah and a shocked Keith. Later, Raeliana's parents come to visit her after receiving news of Jake's attack on her. Noah reassures them that both Jake and Francis are being held at a top-class prison and that he will continue protecting their daughter. A few days later, as Raeliana is enjoying her breakfast, a sharp-looking woman makes her entrance into the room. It's Mary Wayne, a world-class dressmaker. Mary brings a gorgeous bridal dress for Raeliana made on demand and gets her to try it on. Raeliana then wears this dress to her engagement ceremony, feeling a bit guilty again that she's taking Beatrice's place. After the ceremony, she collapsed on her bed, exhausted. Later, she finds herself waking up in a boat under the night sky, with the sound of fireworks booming above her, and Noah tells her that he took her out on a little date. Raeliana asks him why he's continuing the engagement with her despite her not needing it anymore, and he asks if she just wants to dump him after using him. While Raeliana realizes how insensitive she had just been, she realizes Noah also just wants to use her. She asks him if he has ever fallen in love before, and Noah denies it, saying he can't fall in love with the responsibility of a duke. Raeliana disagrees, though, and thinks that he will soon find a person he loves. Seeing her smiling face, Noah is about to lean in for something, when Raeliana gets shocked by something. On nearby land, she spots a woman with blonde hair, the same as Raeliana's good friend, Beatrice. The next day, Raeliana reads some letters she received. One of them is from Eratiel, who has sent her the invitation to the Nobles Club. At this, Raeliana feels smug that she's done Noah a favor. Eratiel's letter also mentions the upcoming monster hunt at Sacred Mountains, where noblemen would hunt down monsters to present to their lady of choice. However, Raeliana then notices something strange. All of the letters she had sent to her friend Beatrice have been returned. Raeliana knows it was the correct address and wonders why her friend would ignore her. As Raeliana is feeling guilty that she might have destroyed the story of this novel by saving her own life, she's interrupted by a maid. The old servant compliments the handkerchief she's making for the festival, but tells her to make one with Noah's family's insignia instead of a dragon. Later, when Raeliana pays a visit to Noah, she finds him fast asleep next to a pile of papers. Seeing how tired he is, she observes her handsome fiancé, almost in disbelief as to why he doesn't party more with his good looks. Suddenly, she starts feeling inferior to Beatrice, feeling like she doesn't deserve Noah. As Raeliana is recalling how Noah fell in love with Beatrice in the novel after saying her name, she is startled to hear her own name escape from Noah's mouth as he stirs awake. Foreshadowing much? The devilish man immediately starts teasing Raeliana, who has no excuse for staring at his good looks. After Raeliana angrily stomps out of the room to punch her pillow again, Noah chuckles, Amused, a few days later, Raeliana gets ready to leave for the monster hunt. Her servants all warn her that in the sacred mountains, people freeze to death even in autumn, making her think it's a trademark phrase of that place. At the same time, from her own mansion, we see Vivian getting into a carriage, after saying goodbye to her brother. Later, Raeliana arrives at the sacred mountain castle. Inside, she sees the lady killer Noah once again swarmed by young women. While she's staring, Raeliana gets approached by Ansley on a horse. She is surprised when Ansley makes a vow to her and apologizes for not making a handkerchief for the lady. Ansley doesn't mind and takes a small piece of lace from Raeliana's dress as a wrist wrap before leaving in a cool, gallant manner. Once she departs, Noah takes the opportunity to playfully approach Raeliana, who is taking out a handkerchief, but for Adam, Noah snatches it away, demanding one for himself. Raeliana complains why he wants one now, even though he has never accepted one before, but does give him a handkerchief of his own after he embarrasses her by bowing. In the midst of all this, Adam feels confused, wondering if Raeliana wants him to hunt a dragon for her. After the men leave to hunt, Jasper Granger, the owner of the castle, greets Raeliana. He tells her that his lifelong goal is to hunt down the Creator, a massive three-headed dog beast. After a conversation with Granger, Raeliana heads inside, only to be dragged away by Vivian and her friends. The women sit at a table with her and ridicule her. Vivian starts bragging to her about how so many men gift her with high-ranking beasts, but Raeliana stings back by saying her lover Noah, who has never taken a handkerchief from someone, took one from her. This hurts Vivian, who loves Noah herself. Later, she rudely spills a drink on Raeliana's clothes, who only shakes her head at the childish act and leaves. However, as it soon begins to rain, Raeliana gets a bad feeling from the dark weather. In the rain, one group returns with a powerful beast to present to the proud Vivian. Then, Ansley also returns to the castle, but with bad news. She reveals her group experienced true hell in the mountains. Soon, Vivian and her friends see a massive mountain moving outside. Upon noticing this, Raeliana hurriedly looks outside the window, only to see a terrifying three-headed beast. However, it falls down dead, to Raeliana's surprise, after she rushes to the site. She finds Adam and Noah, relaxed after killing the legendary Cryorder. Noah presents the beast to Raeliana, saying they couldn't find a dragon in the mountains. Lord Jasper comes out, happy to see his dream beast hunted down. Noah, however, isn't very impressed by the beast and claims he just hunted it down to use as bait for a real dragon. This shatters poor Jasper's heart, who stumbles back inside. After the event ends, Raeliana catches Vivian casting glances her way. Taking the opportunity to assert dominance over Vivian, she decides to tend to Noah, guiding him. Inside away from the rain, she leaves, but not before making a face at the bitter vixen. Once inside the castle, Raeliana complains to Noah for accusing her of demanding a dragon. To back his statement, Noah shows her Adam's handkerchief, which enrages Raeliana for being a cause of such embarrassment. Noah then tells her that he needs to change, and a blushing Raeliana prepares to leave. Noah decides to tease her, though, saying he wouldn't mind if she peeped at him like always. This annoys Raeliana, who gets close to him to cover his mouth. In a close moment, she gives Noah a cute lecture on not to bring up past mistakes, before leaving him out of breath. Outside Noah's room, Raeliana feels somewhat happy from their interaction, before a servant escorts her to her own room. From him, Raeliana learns that Mr. Jasper has been sobbing constantly about his beloved Cryorder. Back in Noah's room, he meets with Keith to discuss some kingdom matters. Keith, however, is more interested in Noah's personal life and asks him if he's truly serious about Raeliana. Noah avoids answering, so Keith tests him by asking if he'd minded if he went after Raeliana himself. Of course, this angers Noah, and Keith realizes he has gone overboard. Meanwhile, in her own room, Vivian feels frustrated about getting outshone by Raeliana. Vivian had always been praised for her beauty by everyone except Noah, and Raeliana had taken him away from her. She had been hoping to get the best monster and win the privilege of lighting a divine torch at the Grand Church, but that prize had been won by Raeliana. Desperate, she holds a green jewel in her hands that a certain blonde woman gave her. The next day, in Raeliana's room, she learns about the torch lighting ceremony. The scene shifts to the Grand Church, where we find a head priest Wade talking to Pope Heike. Heike, a child prodigy and genius, is too proud to attend the ceremony. Wade tries to get the childish Heike to show up for the torch ceremony, but the church leader seems uninterested in greeting a bunch of idiot nobles. The poor priest begs his master to just greet the nobles as it would get the church some much-needed donations. However, Heike doesn't have any of it and kicks Wade out of his study. Back to Raeliana, she prepares to head out for the church. She notices a green jewel in her luggage and takes it with her before heading out. Inside her carriage, Raeliana reads a message that Beatrice was not studying at the address she sent her mail to. She is surprised, wondering if her actions change the story of this world. As the carriage gets closer to the temple, Raeliana learns from a man that the current pope, Heike, is a living legend who transformed the world's religion with his wisdom. Raeliana is amazed, wondering who the figure is. The man is then interrupted by a jealous Adam who points out they've arrived. Upon entering the church, a priestess takes Raeliana around. She notices that the temperature is comfortable and warm, and the priestess reveals that the area around the church is covered by a magic dome that keeps it warm. She takes Raeliana into a purification chamber where she will be bathing for the next few days. After Raeliana finishes her bath, the priestess brings a bowl of food so bad it needs to be censored. Raeliana is horrified at the sight, and the eerily smiling maid gets closer and closer to her, saying she needs to eat the unmentionable junk to purify her body. Having eaten the disgusting junk, Raeliana goes outside to get some fresh air. There she notices a little red bird drowning in a pond. Heike seems to be watching her from a tree as she approaches the bird and saves it. Heike calls out to her, saying the flying bird entered the dome by accident and will die soon. Raeliana is surprised, but takes the bird with her to where the dome is. Heike curiously follows her, reminding her that the bird is fated to die. He tells her that the bird can't withstand the sudden change in temperature outside the dome, but Raeliana doesn't listen and takes it outside anyway. However, the bird immediately falls down to Raeliana's disappointment. As Heike reminds her of fate, the park inside Raeliana wonders if she, too, is truly bound by her fate to die. However, she remains determined and scolds Heike, saying that all that matters is the will to live. She then pinches his chubby cheeks, and the proud pope furiously screams out his name to her. However, Raeliana doesn't notice since she is looking at the bird get up and fly away. This truly surprises Heike, and Raeliana smiles before leaving. Sadly, when she gets back, chills run down her spine as the church priestess returns with another delicious meal. Later, an angry Heike calls Wade to see which female servant acted rude to him. Wade is sadly unable to find the woman from Heike's awful drawing. He gets scolded by Heike for having such an ignorant, rude priestess who doesn't even know about the Holy Pope. But neither Wade nor Heike have any idea that the person they're looking for doesn't work at the church. Later, while Raeliana is taking a bath, she wonders how to avoid her fate of eating the disgusting rice gruel and begs the priestess to have mercy on her. The priestess sees the usually quiet and obedient Raeliana beg and offers to have her translate a book in the library in exchange for not eating the food. More than happy with this agreement, Raeliana leaves for the library. There, she finds some books and ink and begins writing. Her understanding of all the world's languages allows her to easily work with the church's language. Later, we see Heike anxiously walking around the church in search of Raeliana. Wade begs him to stop the fruitless effort, and Heike finally decides to give up and head to the library. There, he finds the book he was working on completed by someone else. Heike is shocked that this person can write the church's language at a native level, and has Wade use a magic spell to track them down. Remarking something this cute should never come out of Wade. When the spell leads him to Raeliana, Heike is shocked that it's the same disrespectful girl from before. Wade apologizes to Raeliana and explains that Heike is actually the legendary pope, which shocks the poor girl. Apparently, Heike's magic power has been sealed, which turned him into a child. Raeliana apologizes to Heike for her rudeness, and the smug pope invites her to become his student at the church. However, the young lady has no such intentions and refuses his offer. Heike is shocked and asks Wade why she refused. Unfortunately, despite a day of asking Wade, Heike is unable to learn why Raeliana rejected him. He gets angry, and to prove his status to her, orders Wade to have the holy land of the church open. Both Noah and Raeliana are seen in their rooms, surprised by the sudden activity in the church. The next day, a young lady drops her handkerchief in front of Noah, hoping to get his attention. The heartless Noah turns around and steps on it, pretending to have not noticed. He cheekily turns to his friend Keith and leaves the angry young lady for him to deal with. Nearby, the church's holy land opens, and a troop of holy knights walks out. Waiting for the ceremony to begin, Raeliana talks with Noah, who notices she has lost weight. The The poor girl gets PTSD from the rice gruel she ate, and the ceremony begins shortly afterward. Heike comes out of a portal, surrounded by saluting knights. He thinks Raeliana would be impressed by this, but the girl seems somewhat annoyed that he's showing off. Heike then thinks of changing his approach, and remembering Wade's words to be more friendly, decides to talk to Raeliana himself. Proudly, the Pope allows Raeliana to be his granddaughter, which she doesn't seem too thrilled about. While Wade drags Heike away to lecture him for being so rude, Raeliana tries to quietly slip away. When she turns around, though, the green jewel on her head glows bright, almost about to explode. Noah and everyone else gets startled, but Heike deals with it and uses his magic to defuse the stone. He now stands in front of Raeliana in his adult form, having unsealed his powers. Later, Heike brings up with Noah why such a dangerous, light-absorbing mineral ended up on Raeliana's head. Noah thanks Heike for saving his fiancée and offers to provide funding to the church. Heike seems to disapprove of the cold Noah, having seen through his terrifying mask. He doesn't want him to marry and take away his potential dream student, and tries to get him away from her. However, the proud Noah doesn't back down, and coldly reminds Heike that he won't leave his fiancée. In this tense moment, Wade butts in and calms down the situation by discussing Noah's funding. Meanwhile, Raeliana is back in the purification chamber, thinking about her near-death experience. She wonders if everyone in this world truly wants her dead, and if she's fated to always keep dying. However, at this moment, Noah appears in the chambers and asks Raeliana who is after her life. He reveals that Francis and Jake are both dead, and some other person is after her. This surprises Raeliana, who thought they were just in prison, but she doesn't reveal who want her dead to Noah. This surprisingly angers Noah, who seems to be upset in a rare display of anger. Raeliana gets angry at his behavior as well and pushes him into the pool of water, reminding him of the sacred place they're in. Noah himself wonders why he's so angry, and remembers Keith's words about him loving Raeliana. He calms down and gets out, before honestly telling Raeliana that he couldn't bear the thought of someone taking her away from him. This one sentence truly shocks Raeliana to the core, who turns into a blushing mess before Noah leaves. The next day, Pope Heike oversees the torch lighting ceremony. After everyone prepares to leave, Heike starts going after Raeliana. Wade stops him, wondering where he's going. It turns out, the Pope likes Raeliana so much that he wants to go back with her. Thankfully, Wade does manage to stop the stubborn Pope this time, as Raeliana thanks him in her heart. While Raeliana is returning home, we are shifted to the Shamal estate. Inside, Vivian's father tells her brother to have a chat with her. He reveals that she has been feeling disturbed after hearing about Raeliana's accident. The brother nods and leaves to have a chat with his sister. In her room, though, he hears shouting and the noise of an item breaking. Vivian's brother breaks in, surprised to see his sister so angry. However, he calms down once he realizes they have a guest, and a blonde woman gets up to introduce herself as Beatrice. Back in her carriage, Raeliana has a feeling she knows who wants her dead. After Raeliana returns home, we see her watching Noah practice swordplay. She immediately breaks herself out of her trance, blushing about admiring her fiancé. Before he comes up to her, Noah takes Raeliana's hand and offers to take her somewhere fun. He then takes her out shopping for jewelry, leaving Raeliana curious about his intentions. To answer this, Noah brings up what happened the last time she got a piece of jewelry on her own. Raeliana retorts, and the two of them begin playful bickering while their guards are shocked by how casual their lord Noah is acting. Once the two settle down, Raeliana gets to choose jewels, but can't decide which one to pick. Noah has an easy solution for this: buying the whole store. The store owner is pleased and prepares all of the jewelry, while Raeliana looks at Noah in shock and awe. After shopping, the couple heads out on a date. Later, Raeliana returns home in the evening, and Noah leaves to attend to some business. When Raeliana gets back to her room, though, a maid warns her that a certain mirror in the house is haunted. Apparently, this mirror has a ghost inside that can answer any question. While Raeliana is scared at first, she foolishly believes she should maybe ask the ghost who is trying to kill her, because surely the whole story isn't made up, and the ghost would definitely know about everything that happens in the world, right? Thus, Raeliana heads downstairs at night and enters the creepy room with the ghost. In one of the mirrors, she sees something and hears a voice. Terrified, Raeliana picks up the mirror to look into it. She is about to ask her question, but a thunderstorm suddenly makes her drop it in fear. Raeliana then hears Noah's voice, who seems concerned for her. she tells him about the ghost, before asking why he was visiting the random room at night. Noah denies that he was worried about her before he takes a blushing but happy Raeliana back to her room. Just as Raeliana is about to close the door, Noah enters with her, saying he knows she'll be too scared to sleep. He sits on a chair to wait for her to fall asleep, but Raeliana comes over and offers to sleep on it instead. Noah, however, carries her in a bold move and puts her back on the bed. He reads a romance novel with her on the bed while waiting for her to sleep. Somehow, Raeliana feels just too nervous to go to sleep with Noah next to her and asks him how he likes the novel. Noah thinks it lacks realism, but Raeliana scolds him for not believing in romance before going to sleep. Noah feels relieved that she's finally sleeping, but before he can leave, Raeliana grabs his arm and hugs it in her sleep. The sweet action forces Noah to stay with her, who feels himself going crazy from his fiancée's cuteness. The next day, Noah is called for a meeting with his brother, the king. In front of the king's room, his attendant, Count O'Brien, makes Noah wait before she barges in. Inside, the king seems entangled with a young lady and lazily complains about the count's bad manners. However, the woman doesn't care and begins dressing the king while giving him a brief. After the king gets ready, Noah enters his room. They discuss some matters of the kingdom, and the king mentions that since the nobility prevention law has not been passed, the sovereign seal has been hidden. However, even the king seems most interested in hearing about his little brother's fiancée. Meanwhile, back at the mansion, Raeliana notices that Noah is gone for a meeting with the king. Suddenly, she remembers from the novel that after this meeting, Beatrice will show up at the king's cousin, Robert's grave to steal the sovereign seal. Thus, Raeliana immediately rushes out on a horse to finally meet her friend. Back to the king. He mentions to Noah that since his dealings with Raeliana have ended, he should end their fake engagement. Going back to Raeliana, she is thinking about Noah, who was handed the title of Duke by Robert's mother after his death. Soon, she reaches the graveyard with an anxious expression and is relieved to see someone standing near Robert's grave. At the same time, back in the king's palace, Noah declares that he is not breaking his engagement with Raeliana for the time being and wants to do something first. Shifting back to Raeliana, when she goes up to the person, though, she gets disappointed to find out it's a strange man. The man is surprised by Raeliana and offers her a seat to sit on. The two of them sit down to have a drink, as the man explains he was there to visit a friend. However, his friend's grave seemed to have been moved due to a grave robbery incident. Raeliana realizes that Noah must have changed the seal's location after learning people knew about it. She then wonders, why didn't he just break their engagement if he never had any use for her afterward? It's love. While she is thinking, the man asks her who she mistook him for. He guesses it might have been a boyfriend, if not, a female friend or family member. Judging from Raeliana's reaction, the man guesses that she has been forced into a political marriage and is now trying to get the person she thinks should be with her lover. Raeliana is surprised that the man guessed it right, but the man himself seems shocked. He asks Raeliana why she is feeling guilty if the lady in question just didn't meet her fiancé. He tells her that to him, if two people don't meet, it's fate, and one should carry on with their own life without any guilt. Raeliana thinks about it and agrees with his thoughts before getting up to leave. She wonders who the incredibly handsome man is, not knowing she just talked to the brother of her arch-nemesis Vivian. The man also wonders who would be looking for another woman despite having a fiancée as pretty as Raeliana, but forgets about her as a passing event. The scene then shifts back to the king's castle, where the king says goodbye to Noah. He seems interested in this fiancée of Noah's. Upon her late return to the mansion, Raeliana is greeted by a host of worried maids and butlers. Suddenly, she sneezes, causing major panic in the house. Everyone rushes to cover her and serve tea, and immediately panic for a doctor seeing her with a mere cold. Clearly, the embarrassed little lady is very loved in the Duke's mansion. Soon, Noah returns as well and teases his delicate princess for getting sick after playing outside. He notices she is drunk and carries her back to her room. While they're on the way, Raeliana thinks about everything that happened between her and Noah so far. When Noah sets her on the bed, Raeliana reveals that she's learned the truth about the seal and asks if they're going to break up. Noah stays silent, and Raeliana begins saying that a person can truly control their fate if they want to, before she falls asleep from exhaustion and a fever. Looking at her sleeping face, Noah smiles and leans in to transfer her cold to himself with a kiss. As dawn breaks the next day, Raeliana wakes up. Remembering her chat with Vivian's brother, she feels more confident that she is the main character of her story and gets over her guilt of replacing Beatrice. Going to visit Noah, Raeliana notices that he seems ill. It seems like Raeliana was too drunk to remember her kiss last night, since she teases Noah for getting sick. Inside, Noah sneezes, revealing he had transferred her cold to himself. Outside in the mansion, Raeliana smiles at a familiar redbird, a symbol of her struggle to keep on living.